بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن اهتدى بهديه وتمسك بالسنة إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear brothers and sisters, today we have our Sheikh Yusuf Abdullah. The Sheikh will cover the topic of how Islam changed the world, inshallah. Sheikh is one of our imams, one of our shuyukhs here at Masjid Abu Bakr As-Saddique here in Minnesota, Minneapolis. Inshallah, Sheikh Yusuf, welcome. Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. Brother Yusuf, Ustad Yusuf, Jazakallah khair. Aad baa u mahadsantahay. Thank you so much for and it was planned, I think, to be Saturday yesterday, inshallah. But can you hear me? I cannot hear you. Can you hear me? Ustad Yusuf, can everyone else hear me, inshallah? Can't hear you.
Yes, Sheikh.
Okay, good. MashaAllah. So, alhamdulillah, wa thana'u lillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam ajma'in. Amma ba'd. Today, I will discuss with you this very important topic, which may take, a lot of time, but inshallah, I will do my best to summarize it and concise it, and inshallah, as much as I can, which is how Islam changed the world. Before we say how Islam changed the world, we should say how was the world before Islam. Before Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sent, what did the world look like? What kind of a world was there? What kind of a system was there? What kind of a social system was there? What kind of religions and beliefs people had at the time? What was the behavior, the akhlaqiyat, the manners, and customs of people? This is really, and when you understand that, and then you see how Islam changed, then you will understand the vastness of this change and the effect that Islam had in the rest of the world. And when we say how Islam changed the world, it's not only about the Muslims, those who accepted Islam, but Islam also benefited and changed. Non-Muslims benefited from Islam, and it changed their lives around for the better. So, the world was a very cruel place before Islam, very unjust place before Islam, very unorganized place before Islam, very unstable place before Islam. It was a place where there was less akhlaq, a place that the discrimination and caste system was very daily life, on the daily lives of everyone almost. And religion-wise, or beliefs, people at the time were believing and worshipping so many different gods. Jaziratul Arab, when we talk about the Arabian Peninsula, which is mainly of Ardul Hijaz and surrounding of that, like Yemen, Bahrain, parts of Iraq, that Jazira al-Arabiya, the Gulf of States as we know it today, parts of Urdun or Jordan, these were called Al-Jazira al-Arabiya, the Arabian Peninsula. It is surrounded by the Bahr al-Arab, the Arab Sea, and the Red Sea, and a bit of part Indian Ocean, and from that Oman side. So as it is today. So that place of the world was where was there was the religion of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Inna Ibrahim kana ummatan qanitan lillahi hanifan wa lam yakun min al-mushrikeen. Ibrahim alayhi salam was a nation by himself. He was a man of tawheed. He was a man of believing only in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The father of the prophets, Abul Anbiya, the children of Israel's prophets, starting from all the Anbiya of Banu Israel. And you can say from Ishaq, that lineage from Ishaq to Yaqub to Yusuf, all the way to Musa and Isa and Dawood and Sulaiman, Yahya and Zakaria. I said also Prophet Musa and Harun. And these were the prophets of Banu Israel, and many other prophets that were not mentioned in the Quran. But there were many prophets from that lineage. Also, Prophet Ismail alayhi salam was, there was no any other prophet from the lineage of Prophet Ismail except Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when Ibrahim alayhi salam settled his son Ismail and his wife Hajar in Mecca, in that valley, the desert of Mecca, and he left there not only a family, but he left there with Tawheed. So the Tawheed was the predominant religion and belief in that part of the world. So when Ibrahim alayhi salam passed away, Ismail alayhi salam passed away, the religion of Ibrahim was still there. Ibrahim alayhi salam built the Kaaba, and the Kaaba was there, and Arabs used to come and do the Hajj of Ibrahim alayhi salam and keep that Tawheed. Until Amr ibn Luhay al-Khuza'i, a man called Amr ibn Luhay came. He went to Sham, the Levant area like Palestine, and he found them worshipping idols. So he brought idols to Mecca. And the biggest one he brought was Hubal, and a sanam or an idol called Hubal. So people used to worship Hubal, and then they, produced so many other gods in that area. That's why the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I have seen, like in a dream, I have seen Amr ibn Luhay in the fire of Jahannam, yani circling around or running around his guts. His guts were out, and he was just, going around his guts in the hellfire. Because the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said he was the one who changed the religion of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. So the religion of Ibrahim alayhi salam was changed from Tawheed to idolism. The whole Arab area, Arabian Peninsula, was overtaken by these idols. In Levant and many parts, of Europe, where people were Christians or Nasara, they also changed. They moved from the aqidah, the belief of worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone and believing that Prophet Isa alayhi salam is a prophet. They changed that into the Trinity, three gods in one, that Jesus is Son of God, and ta'ala Allahu an dhalika uluwan kabira. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pure and clean from that. Lam yalid wa lam yulad. He did not begot and he was not begotten, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No son, no children, no wife. But they introduced that. And the aqidah of original sin, that Jesus died because of our sins, as they still say today. All these things were not in Injil. It was never in the Bible of Isa alayhi salam. And the religion of Isa alayhi salam was changed in the conference of Nicaea or Nicaea, however you pronounce it. In Arabic it's called Nicaea, currently in Turkey, and in the Byzantine Empire's time of Constantine, after 300 years of Isa alayhi salam, Prophet Isa alayhi salam. And the Judaism was also changed from a religion of Moses alayhi salam into a religion of rabbis, and those who were just calling people, this is haram, this is halal, according to their desires, not according to the book of Torah that was given to Musa alayhi salam. اتخذوا أحبارهم ورهبانهم أربابا من دون الله والمسيح ابن مريم. They made their rabbis and their ruhban are the the monks, their monks, Christian monks or Jewish monks, they made them their gods. So what they did is they changed the pure tawheed of the religion of Musa and Isa alayhi salam. Those were the people who were the Ahlul Kitab. That's why the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ نَظَرَ إِلَى أَهْلِ الْأَرْضِ فَمَقَتَ عَرَبَهُمْ وَعَجَمَهُمْ إِلَّا بَقَايَا مِنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ. Before the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was sent, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looked at the earth, on the earth, يعني people, and he disliked and cursed all of them, the Arabs and non-Arabs, except a few remaining of the people of the book. People of the book, few of them remaining on the Tawheed. And when you read the story of Salman al-Farisi alayhi salam and how he came to Islam, you can also see that he would move from this religious man to another one, to another one, to another one, until finally the last one who was about to die told him that there is no anyone good here that I know that I can tell you to go to, but there will be a prophet coming out of the Arabian Peninsula, and he will be living in such and such area, in a city that has, palms and things like that. If you could go and join him, and that's the only thing I can tell you. And these are his signs, the signs that you should know that he's a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, that means religious-wise and belief-wise, it was over. It was over. And when you go to, people left the Arabs left the religion of Ibrahim. People of the book left the Torah and Injil. They left the Bible, the Old Testament and New Testament both. They changed it, they omitted, they added, they interfered with, they altered it. Okay, these were the people of religion, though, these two groups. What do you expect of the rest? Were pagans. The Persians were worshipping fires. The Hindus were worshipping, idols and, animals and things like that. So there was no sizable community that believes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his prophets. That's when the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sent. So that's religious. In terms of the social life, the dhulm, transgression, was abundant. Inequalities and oppression were the daily businesses, daily life, affecting the daily lives. People were either peasants or army, people in the army, or people who are the elites and the higher level group that were oppressing the rest of the community. Whatever they produce, they would take from them. These poor farm people who are farming, even the farming, the land is not for them. The land is for the landlords. These guys just live off that land alone. What they do is they farm it. When it's harvested, the owner of the land takes everything. The church takes from him something. The leaders and the army or the king and his groups would take also some of it. But the rest of the people are just, very poor, have nothing. Very, high level of economic injustice. The taxes were levied against those who are the most vulnerable of the community. When it comes to social relationships and marriages, it was a disaster. The man would do whatever he wants. When groups or tribes fight each other, or countries fight each other, women and children were just robbed and taken away like any other property. And it was, and there was no definition for marriage, definition for a family for most of the communities at the time. And there was haraka, or a system that is called haraka al-Muzdakiyya in Persia at the time. And Persia and Romans, Eastern Romans and the Persians at the time, were the two top superpowers at the time, challenging each other, especially in the Middle East. So when sometimes the Persians take over, and sometimes the Romans take over. So it was a place where there is no right for the weak, especially in the Arab areas. So one of the Arab poets said, depicting that situation, he's depicting that situation, talking about that situation. He says, and I think it was Zuhair ibn Abi Salma, one of the poets, his mu'allaqat is, his mu'allaqa, or his poem is one of the top poems of the 7 mu'allaqat. He says, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَضُدْ عَنْ حَوْضِهِ يُهَدَّمِ وَمَنْ لَا يَظْلِمِ النَّاسَ يُظْلَمِ. Whoever does not protect his well and his water, they had different wells in the Arabian Peninsula for different tribes. He says, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَذُدْ عَنْ حَوْضِهِ يُهَدَّمِ وَمَنْ لَا يَظْلِمِ النَّاسَ يُظْلَمِ. Whoever does not protect his well, his troughs, animal troughs, when you fetch the water from the well and you put it for the animal troughs or baskets, so the camels can drink from it. If you don't defend that, it will be destroyed. It will be demolished if you don't protect it. وَمَنْ لَا يَظْلِمِ النَّاسَ يُظْلَمِ. And whoever does not transgress against the others, he will be transgressed against him. If you don't pick a fight, other people will pick a fight with you. So you'd rather start it now. No law, no order, nothing. It's just the power, the sword, and the spear. These are the things that talk. With a man who has muscles and horse, and many from his tribes. وَمَنْ لَا يَظْلِمِ النَّاسَ يُظْلَمِ. People were fighting each other, even if they were close to each other. The fighting and the killing and the haraj was very normal. It was part of the daily life. Some tribes would conquer other tribes, they would take away from them, and they would come back, the other ones, they would take away from them as well. And some of the governments or states will invade each other on yearly basis. They will enslave those who they get hold of them. Nothing, no rule, no law, nothing. It's just by that force. If you are weak, you're going to be crushed. Nothing, no one is going to defend you, basically, if you're weak. وَمَنْ لَا يَظْلِمِ النَّاسَ يُظْلَمِ. وَأَحْيَانًا عَلَى بَكْرٍ أَخِينَا إِن لَمْ نَجِدْ إِلَّا أَخَانَا. إِذَا لَمْ نَجِدْ إِلَّا أَخَانَا. Sometimes we pick a fight, he says, with our brothers of Bakr Bani Wa'il. They were, he was from another tribe, but Bakr Bani Wa'il were his closest allies and, kins. So he says sometimes we just pick a fight with them if we don't have anyone else to pick a fight with. So politically, security and safety, religion-wise, it was a world that is in shambles. When it comes to social life, other social life, women were the lowest of those classes, especially in the Arab area. They used to bury them. The girls, they used to bury the girls. And marriage was not defined in many parts. In some parts of Europe, in Persia, women, there was a debate going on, are they humans or not? And it was a property for so many societies, many societies at that time. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in that period of time. Yes, there were some other akhlaqiyat or some other attributes that were good in some parts of the world, especially in that, Jazira al-Arabiya, in Ard al-Hijaz, in that area where the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and was sent from. They had some khisal, yani good characteristics and attributes that were really and good characteristics. One of them was that they were brave people. They were people with honor. يعني كرم والشجاعة والأنفة. أنفة means like they are people who are free. These tribes were free. يعني they fight each other, but no any other government that took them over. So what they would do is they would fight off other tribes or enemies. So they kind of had like something, some type of freedom, and they were not accepting to be enslaved or something like that. So there were good things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam from that area for a good reason. He did not choose from an area where it was controlled by the Persians or enslaved by the Persians or the Romans, because people, when they are enslaved, usually it's not easy for them to fight back and get freedom. That's why Prophet Musa alayhi salam had a very difficult time freeing Banu Israel from Fir'aun. And even in Surah Al-Ma'idah, you see that when he says, go to the Medina, Ard al-Muqaddasa allati kataba Allah lakum, and the blessed land that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prescribed for you, go to it and grab it. This is your place, your home. You were evicted from it. Go back to it. Get it back. They said, no, we can't. There are people who are stronger than us. There are people that we cannot do anything about. If you want to fight and go back to that city, you and your Lord should go there. We're not coming with you. Because they were mentally crushed. They were mentally crushed by so many years and centuries of oppression and enslavement. So sometimes, and people, when they are oppressed and enslaved, their demeanor changes, their self-confidence, weakens, so they are susceptible to more oppression and not to be able to get their freedom. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam from a society which was not like that. Like the Arab man at the time was free. He sought. He has a lot of other problems, but at least he's free. Yes, he sought his safe, or his spear and his horse and his camel. So those who followed Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, most of them were never enslaved, except a few like Bilal and some other few. Most of them were never enslaved. They have that self-confidence, and Islam gave them self-confidence. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam with the first 5 ayats. 5 ayats. And I want you to concentrate with me. These 5 ayats. Amazing, beautiful 5 ayats. And sometimes we read, we teach our children, we go over them. These 5 ayats, we don't pay attention to them. But these were the 5 ayats, the beginning of the change of the world, the entire world. Knowledge revolution. It created a revolution in a nation that was very weak, very much divided, ignorant, backward society. Ummiyin, they don't read, they don't write Arabs at the time. No law, no constitution, no government, no system, no unity, no peace, no procedures, no courts, no system, no police force, no law and order. In that society, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Started with 5 ayats. Let's read these 5 ayats. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. Recite, read and recite. By the name or in the name of Lord. These 5 ayats are about writing, reading, and knowledge. علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. Knowledge. So when you are learning or teaching someone, what do you learn first as a person, and what do you teach the person as the first time? Is it writing or reading? It is reading. How can you write when you don't know how to read? اقرأ. So اقرأ revolutionized the whole world. Every prophet was given a mu'jiza, a miracle. The miracle that was given to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a word, اقرأ. So all of a sudden, a revolution of learning started. And this is amazing. If you read afterwards, the nation that was divided, ignorant, backward, illiterate, lawless, now less than 30 years has conquered, not by sword, but by attraction, most of it, the whole Middle East. In 30 years, in less than 30 years, all Persia, up to the Hudud al-Sin, the borders of China, the Mediterranean, Armenia and Azerbaijan, Egypt and Sudan, and in between. Peace, tranquility, law and order, religion and faith, unity, knowledge that is expanding by the day. It shifted the whole system from chaos to complete order. And this was the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you believe in me, if you follow me, if you become a mu'min, I grant you and promise you that you are going to have a peace. You will be able to practice your religion, your faith, the way you want, fearing no one, no insecurity. وعد الله الذين آمنوا منكم وعملوا الصالحات ليستخلفنهم في الأرض كما استخلف الذين من قبلهم وليمكنن لهم دينهم الذي ارتضى لهم وليبدلنهم من بعد خوفهم أمنا يعبدونني لا يشركون بي شيئا. So then Khulafa al-Rashidin, the time of the Khulafa al-Rashidin, when the Khulafa al-Rashidin came, they embraced the world. And this is what we need to understand. They gave the world what it needed. They gave it faith. They gave it iman. They gave it peace. They gave the world a cause to live for and a cause to die for. Justice. So in many parts of Persia and Levant area and Egypt, the masses, the gentlemen, the peasants who were oppressed financially, physically, emotionally were oppressed, now heard about the Muslims. They only collect zakat, which is given to the poor people. They don't want anything from you. They will, even if you are a Christian or Jew, you can still go to your church. You can still worship the way you believe. They're not going to bother you. They will only collect some once a year from you, what you can afford. And if you become a Muslim, you will be like them. No discrimination. No discrimination and no preferences between whites and non-whites, Arabs, non-Arabs, Africans, Asians, Europeans, Persians. It doesn't matter where you're from. As long you are under this nation, you get your rights. So they open the gates to them. So those who are saying Islam and Muslims spread by sword, they are lying about the history. It is not true. If you read the books of history, authentic books of history, you see that Muslims, of course, fought. Islam is not a passive religion. It allows the person to defend his faith, to fight back, to look for and get his justice or her justice. It does not accept oppression. It does not condone it. It does not welcome it. But it does not transgress and oppress others. So of course they fought with those who were fighting them. وَقَاتِلُوا الَّذِينَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ الَّذِينَ يُقَاتِلُونَكُمْ. Fight with those who are fighting against you. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam gave them certain orders. And the Sahaba Abu Bakr gave them certain orders. Do not burn trees. Do not cut trees. Do not burn houses. Do not, disgrace, disintegrate, and destroy worship centers. Whoever is not fighting with you, do not fight with them. Do not kill the elders, the children, women, those who are not fighting you. Clear orders. The harb, the fight of the Muslims at the time was ruled by law. They cannot do that. When at the time the world was, when the people fight each other, when the governments fight each other, when the kingdoms fight each other, like Persians and the Romans, scorched earth. Scorched earth. What does that mean? Razed. They would raze towns and cities and villages and burn everything down. That was the normal of the day. But the Muslims, when they came, that's why you don't see population shift. You're not gonna see. In the Muslims' time, when they were fighting, when they were, and in conflict with other people, you're not gonna say shifts. You're not gonna be migrations. People migrating from Middle East all the way to Europe or all the way to China. Or no, the populations are still there. Because there is no need. Their lives, their properties are not in danger. So when the Muslims and when Islam spread, they spread with the belief that they had, justice. أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين لله شهداء بالقسط ولا يجرمنكم شنآن قوم على ألا تعدلوا اعدلوا هو أقرب للتقوى. And do not transgress, even against those who are your enemies. Because you hate them, you don't like them, it does not mean you have the right to transgress against them. Because of a hate or a fight or a dislike that you have for someone else, do not transgress. Do not cross the limits of justice. They were carrying that, and they took that to the world. So let's move to what the Muslims contributed, not just contributed, revolutionized. They changed the whole system of education, Muslims, and spread of knowledge. And this is actually a very important area that we need to focus today. Today we see technological breakthroughs, unseen before. It's something that has never been there before. If I tell you that the Muslims were the ones who started that, you may say, like, that's too much. No, it's not. Muslims, I'm going to take a few things. Number one is, at the time of Al-Khalifa Al-Abbasi, Harun Rashid rahimahullah, the Abbasi Khalif, in around 700, around 600, 700, that area of the Miladi, or 100, 150 of the Hijri, and there was an skirmishes between the Muslims and the Chinese Tang Empire, the Tang Empire in China at the time, in what is known today as Kyrgyzstan. And Muslims were able to get two men who had paper. The paper that we know today was manufactured by the Chinese cult, but it was kept secret. A secret that was kept by the Chinese. Muslims took that. They got the two men. Muslims got the upper hand in that skirmishes or conflict, and they brought that and the two men with the paper to Baghdad. Baghdad was at the time Hadiratul Alam, the capital of the world. It was the capital of the world at the time. So they brought that to Baghdad. So Khalif al-Abbasi, the Khalif that was there at the time, he said, okay, if you teach us this paper how to do it, we will free you. And then the Muslims learned that, how to produce paper. Muslims are the ones who introduced paper to the world as we know it today. And Baghdad, the scholars, the Muslim scholars, and the Dawa'ir al-Hukumiyya, the government circles, وفي القضاء, and the justice system were using paper when other people were using at the time, some other things like Egyptian big paper, thick one, I was not able, to do that much. The skin of the animals and things like that, which will rot, and so. And Muslims, if you go to the history of the Islamic history, and if you read the even Kutub al-Hadith, if you read Mustal al-Hadith and all of that, and Kutub al-Fiqh, you will see kaghid. Paper used to be called at the time kaghid. They said it was a Chinese word used for kaghid. I don't know if it's Mandarin or Cantonese or old language or new language. Still, I don't know, but that's what they used to call kaghid. Al-habru ala al-kaghid. You will see that in the books. So the Muslims, they produced that, and they reproduced it, and they perfected how to produce it. And a revolution of writing and intellectual expansion started. Harun Rashid alayhi salam, rahimahullah, Harun Rashid rahimahullah, he created a dar called Darul Hikmah, the house of wisdom. What the Muslims did is they translated other books that was written by the Greeks, that were written by the Egyptians, that were written by the Hindus, the Indians, whatever it is, and they translated it. Although there were some mistakes actually, that some of them were religious books and something like that, and it created a lot of problems for the Muslims of different sects started from that, and it was difficult. In a way, it was difficult, but another way, the Muslims then started to be the leaders, the leading ummah or nation in science, astronomy, mathematics, medicine, and all kinds of knowledge at the time. Poetry and language and all of that. And religion, of course. And law, fiqh, the expansion of fiqh. The schools of fiqh started. 4 madhabs. That's when we Abu Hanifa, Malik, Shafi'i, Imam Ahmad, some other madhahib that are not there anymore. Expanded. A lot of fiqh books were written. And I have a point with that fiqh books later on, if the time permits. Darul Hikmah. I'll give you one example. Before the Isha comes, because if Isha comes, I have to go for the, we're not going to be able to continue this. But let me tell you this. Today, the ala, what we're using today, now I'm on Zoom or whatever you call this system that I'm using today, it uses electronics, data, programming, all of that put together. And it uses a specific way of, dealing with these technologies and databases and programming. It's called algorithm. Algorithm is a system of solving problems, mathematical problems. It's a way of solving mathematical problems, which is like systematic, well thought of. It's called algorithm. You have seen that in the math. I don't have to talk to you about the algebra math. I believe a lot of you are really good in that area, more than I do. But algorithm is a twisted name of Muhammad ibn Musa al-Khawazmi. He learned in the Darul Hikmah of Harun Rashid, established by Harun Rashid, the house of wisdom. That is where he learned. And he did a lot of work in math, algorithm, algebra, many parts of algebra al-muqabala. He has done a lot of work in astronomy. So the algebra, without algebra, what kind of a math do you have? It's a base for everything. If you come from, and this another amazing thing that is that, and it's really very amazing. Math before Quran was only numbers. Muslims are the ones who introduced it more, taught more, developed more of even arithmetic, like fractions. In the Quran introduced fraction. What is fraction in the Quran? What is the fraction in the Quran? The whole inheritance system is all based on fractions and percentages. Least common denominator and fractions, 1/3, 2/3, 1/4, 1/8, 1/6, and then you do awl and other things. All this is in the Quran. And then from there, Fuqaha of Islam, because they have to distribute inheritance based on the Quran and Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And there is a fraction in there, so they have to learn the math. It's very natural. Learn the math. So when you learn math, what happens? You learn more. You discover more you expected. You go after it. It opens the gates for you to continue even more. That's how Muslims learned and introduced to the world the algebra. Most of the algebra equations that we know today were introduced by the Muslims. whether it's geometry or algebra or algorithm or fractions, percentages, all of that. Math is the basis for science. Without that, without math, you cannot do any, you cannot go, what can you do about science? Science and math are together. And also, another thing that the Muslims, the world learn from the Muslim is that authentication of news and academic research, academic rules. Okay, one thing today, some of the things that you have to do is you have to be certified, and certification is as levels. But high school, bachelor, master's degree, PhD, and so on. Or certification is I'm certified in this area, certified A++, okay, certified project manager, certified so and so, certified. Where does that come from? It comes from ijaza. The Muslims are the ones who started ijaza. The Sheikh would say, I let you teach my book. You are qualified to teach this book. He would write for him. Protection of the copyright and intellectual rights were introduced by the Muslims. Sariqat al-hadith was a crime that disqualifies the person from teaching or even hadith, to give hadith. Sariqat al-hadith, sariqat al-kutub, to steal other people's books and their narrations. It was a sign of weakness, untrustworthy. The chain of reporters, to make sure that what you're hearing is right, authentication of the news, was part of the Muslim scholarship, academic research. Today, when you write in a paper of something, of anything, you have to cite your sources. You have to document it, even in a certain way. That was the case. That was what the Muslims started. Authentication of the news, citation of the sources. Abdullah ibn Mubarak rahimahullah said, "Al-isnadu min ad-din, walawla al-isnadu laqala man sha'a ma sha'a." The chain of reporters is part of the deen. If there was no chain of reporters, everyone would have said whatever they want. I heard from this from the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I heard from this from Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu. I heard from this and that. Show us the supporting evidence. From whom? You did not live at the time of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You did not live at the time of Umar radiallahu anhu. Where do you get this from? Show me the chain of reporters. Are they connected? Is there any weak person? All of that. Authentication of the sources. Protection of the intellectual rights. Today, if a newspaper produce a piece of news, and he says so and so said that, he has to, that news will be liable for saying whatever they're saying about that person, unless and until they prove it. So intellectually, Islam, the world benefit from it, academically benefit from it, mathematically benefit from it, scientifically benefit from it, astronomically benefit from it, a lot of things. Now, how about the law and order? That, inshallah, will post to many for another time. It's Isha time now. So my point is, the world benefited from Islam. Islam changed the world from a place of lawlessness, no rule, to a semblance of a rule, to a semblance of understanding, to a semblance of a system, to a semblance of human dignity, at least. And those who followed Islam the right way, as Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu said, they were honored. So my point that I want to conclude is, Islam that the world benefited from is not possible that we are backward today because of it. No, we are backward as Muslims if we are, because we left what advanced us. عمر الخطاب رضي الله عنه says نحن قوم أعزنا الله بالإسلام فإذا ابتغينا العزة في غير ما أعزنا الله أذلنا الله. We were honored by Islam. We're a nation that are honored by Islam, and if we seek honor from what we were not honored from, or we leave our honor, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will dishonor us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our deen and our ibadah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive our shortcomings. Sallallahu sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
جزاه الله الخير جزاء فضيلة الشيخ يوسف عبد الله. Inshallah, we would like to conclude our lecture for the night. Inshallah, until tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.